On today's episode of Gathering the Kings, you built a company, a $4 million company over 4 years, and you sold it. What was a great decision that you made that helped you do that, that we can go implement in our businesses today? You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz, Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in. What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz, Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. Today, I've got Russell Furr here on the King stage. My brother, Russell. How we doing?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the invite.
Dude, I was telling you before we hit the record button here that I was referred to you by a good friend of mine and Mastermind client, actually. But he was just tooting your horn as a guy that I had to have on the show. And I was like, okay, here we go. And we had some scheduling back and forth mix-ups, but here we are, and I'm just like, I couldn't be any more jazzed because I really want to hear your story, and I'm really excited to share your story because I think that you, like myself, are pretty intentional about your actions, and you're going to be able to have a pretty cool story here of what you've been able to do with that intentionality. So let's jump in. Tell us what kind of business that you have now and that you recently exited.
Cool. So right now I'm doing coaching. So I'm doing coaching for CEOs and entrepreneurs. And the thing that I hear a lot is that, all these business owners, they bring in all these coaches for their people, but not many of them have coaches for themselves.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's where I come into play, man, is I can help guys navigate strategic decisions in the business for growth, that sort of thing. And I do some diet and nutrition coaching because, entrepreneurs, man, they can be super, super successful, but they may not like what they see when they look in the mirror.
That's right. That's right.
And there's a lot of disinformation out there, and it's hard to cut through all the BS with nutrition and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that's something that I provide to my clients as well.
Very cool, man.
Yep.
And so tell us what because this is a newer endeavor, and you've spent a good amount of your professional life in a whole different world. Tell us about that for a second.
That's right. Yeah. So I had a plumbing business that I started in 2018, and I'm a plumber by trade. I started when I was 17 years old in 1999. And, I started my business in 2018 because I wanted to bring something to my town that just didn't exist, a type of company that didn't exist that was all about customer service. It was customer service first, because anybody can fix the plumbing, but they call us because of the experience that we provide when we fix that plumbing, so that was the vision for the company. And so I started the company in 2018 with the goal to add electrical and HVAC to create a company that can provide all the home services to the customer.
Yeah.
And I wanted to scale it quickly and sell it. I wanted to use the business as a stepping stone. And that's exactly what I did. So in under 5 years, I was able to scale it to about $4 million in revenue, and then just had an exit at the end of 22.
Yeah, I love it, man. A lot of practical things that you and I are going to be able to go through, not only just in your history, but kind of the two of us kind of pinging back and forth on what could be super helpful for the listener, especially if they're in the home services. But even if they're not building a business, as you're building a not home service business now, it's the same formula.
It is. Absolutely. It's the same. Absolutely is, man. Business is really the same at its core principle,
That's right. That's right.
It's really the same.
That's right. And don't get me wrong, like I'm sure we're part of many like plumber associations or plumber conferences and groups. And I think there's much value in all of that. Specifically for me though, me being as an entrepreneur in different industries myself, when I started Gathering the Kings, the peer-to-peer mastermind group, what niche am I going to go with? Well, our niche is obviously just a big business owner. Cool. But like when you really boil it down, business is business. And yes, you sold plumbing services and I sell a bunch of different stuff, and so-and-so listening sells something completely different, but the principles remain the same. So I'm excited to jump into that. Before we do though, Russell, bro, what's your why? What's the burning thing inside of you? What gets you up in the morning? What is it?
Man, what gets me up in the morning is building a life by design. not having to do things like I've had to do for so many years of my life, but being able to do things, you know?
Yeah.
Now I
Yeah.
get to work with coaching and that sort of thing. Now I get to provide for my family in a way that benefits everyone. I get to be more available for my family now because I exited my business. And now I only work like, 1 day a week, one or two. It's not very much because I need to find that balance, you know? So that's really what drives me. That's really what drives me is just providing for my family.
Yeah. I love that. We're definitely going to get into that, especially since you use the word balance. I've been creating an enemy with the word balance, and so we're going to get into that here in a second. But I thought maybe for sure your why was getting some more shirts because you look like you got some awesome shirts there behind you. For the
I love
listeners that aren't watching the video, man, he's got a whole closet full of very colorful, very nice shirts. A lot of money represented right behind him there.
Todd Snyder, man. Everyone should check out Todd Snyder. He's awesome, man. He's a
That's
great menswear designer.
That's right. I love it. That's good stuff, man. They say, well, not they, specifically Think and Grow Rich, the success principle book of all time, talks about highly successful people are aware of detail, which includes their presentation and how they look. So
Absolutely.
gotta look sharp. All right. So
Absolutely.
you started a business, but before that, you worked for a business. And so what made that transition? You went from employee to business owner. Why?
Well, I've always been, I worked for other people for, 15 years of my career, whatever it was. And I'm the type of guy where I'm never content with kind of where I am. I'm always wondering where that next level is, you know?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So once I was about 35, 36 years old, I was working for a company I was super, super happy with. I tried to move up and I really couldn't. There was really nowhere to go, you know?
Yeah.
And then after a handful of years with that company, I realized that the only way for me to do what I was trying to do in life was to go at it on my own, you know? And that's what happened. And I built the business a certain way from day one because I had a goal in mind, which was to build it in a way where a private equity group would want to purchase it, basically as soon as possible. As soon as I can get it to a level where I can sell it, that's the goal
Right.
is to sell it, you
Right.
know? So I built it from day one, very structured, very process oriented, very professional. And it was all about the customer, and that's the way I built it from day one.
Yeah, I was talking actually with Matt, actually, the guy that referred me to you. And we were talking about this transition in the home service space. You just mentioned it was all about the customer. And so he and I were having this pretty in-depth conversation about home service and how it used to be is that it was about the service, right? Like not the experience, but the service. You got the plumbing work done, like you said. You just come out, you do the work. And there was a demand, maybe there wasn't, but it really wasn't customer focused. It was more like technically focused and can you do it, can you not, that type of a thing. But a lot of that stems from, like even manufacturing, pushing certain products, and it's all been knowledge and technically based. But for the last 5, 10, maybe even longer, 15 years, the customer has taken control of the buying decisions rather than maybe the other end, the manufacturers and the technically driven decisions. And it's all about the experience, and it's all about how the homeowner feels while working with your company. Can you speak to that at all?
Absolutely. The culture that I built in my company was all about serving the customer. I used to say all the time in training when I was training my technicians and the rest of my employees, I used to say all the time, it's not about the plumbing. Anybody can fix the plumbing. Like I would go to Google and I'm in Culpeper and the name of my business was Culpeper Home Services. And in the training room, I had a big TV on the wall and I would Google plumbers in Culpeper, HVAC repair in Culpeper, electricians in Culpeper. And I would show the guys. I say, look how many options the customer has in the marketplace. Any one of these customers can fix their problem.
Yeah.
It's not about the plumbing. It's about the experience they receive when they call our company. That's what sets us apart, because anyone can fix the plumbing, but they call us for the experience that we provide.
Yeah. Yeah. So this client experience, I mean, I've really gone in deep on this, and a lot of what I was chatting with Matt about and some of the things that he and I are working on include this client experience, but I've really obsessed over what does this really look like? And for me, it's like this very beginning all the way to end experience. And then everything's broken down into touch points is what I call them. So I'd love to hear your opinion. Basically from the first interaction of what your brand looks like on the van or the sign or the ad that they see online, the very first interaction with your company from a marketing perspective. And then how they call or how you call them, that first verbal interaction, email interaction, the text touch points throughout the process, the sales process itself, right? Then you have the actual completion of the work, and then you have like an after work relationship building experience. And there's a lot of detail inside of all that, but would you agree? Would you add anything to that? Give us some thoughts around, like, what is the client experience exactly?
Sure. So, it's very simple. I used to do this in training also, is I would pull up reviews, from my company, from other people's companies, whatever the case may be. And we'd go through the reviews. We go through the reviews and the, on the screen right there. And you could just read through the reviews and see what people are talking about when it comes to your company or somebody else's company. What are they complaining about and what are they praising? Very rarely will you see them say that water heater they installed is beautiful. The way they join the pipes, the way the handle is, when you
It's
turn the
so
handle.
pretty.
Yeah, yeah, you can turn the handle without it hitting the expansion tank and like all this technical stuff that most technicians think is important. It's
Yeah.
not important at all. When
Yeah.
the truth of the matter is, once you start reading through the reviews, what you notice is people are saying, he asked me if my truck was parked okay, and he moved it with a smile on his face because my husband had to leave. Or, oh, he put on shoe covers as he came into my house, and he wasn't scared of my dog. He had a dog treat, he even gave a dog treat to my dog. Or he had patience with my autistic son who was there and wanted to help and learn and see what he was doing. Those are the things that people care about.
Yeah.
Those are the things that people care about. They don't care about the toilet that you're there to fix. Anybody can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 30 other people in the marketplace in a small town. I mean, if you're in a dense market like
Good luck.
DC Metro, there's hundreds and hundreds of plumbers that
Yeah.
they can choose from. And they all can fix that toilet or repair that water heater or whatever the case. They can all do that, but it's those extra steps that the customer actually cares about, because one thing I used to love doing for customers, and this is something else that I would do in training, is I would ask the group, I'd say, what's something that you did extra for a customer this week? What did you do extra, that was above and beyond, because one of the things I used to love doing was that people get the storm door replaced on their front door, of their house, but the installers don't adjust the strut. So when you open it, the thing just slams, like it shakes the house. Right.
Yep.
And your average person doesn't know how easy that is to adjust. So what I would do is I would take my little Phillips head screwdriver, because I got it right there, and I would just adjust the little strut. I'd open the door, close it, open and close it, adjust it, open, so I get it just perfect, And this did two things: made the customer super happy because they didn't understand how easy it was. Number two, it makes me more efficient because now I can blast in and out of the door, get my work done without having to, manually close it every time, At the end of the day, it made the customer happy, and that's what it's really all about. It's those little things like that that the customer doesn't expect you to do. They expect you to fix that toilet. They don't expect you to carry in the newspaper from the curb or pulling their trash can from the end of the driveway, or
simple.
All these little tiny things that really make the difference.
Yeah, it's so good, man. It makes me think of another person. I don't know, maybe it was a couple of months ago. I was chatting, and the example that he used, they're an outdoor company, outdoor living space, kitchens and landscape and stuff like that. But they would find and install new lights, not part of their plan, not something that the customer paid for. But it was like, a couple $100. But in specific strategic areas outside that were already there, light, but just replaced it. And it cost them a couple $100. But the homeowner was like, whoa, like, wait a second, wow. And so again, just finding those little things. I love the newspaper, like all of those very, very common sense, so simple, but nobody does.
Yep. No one does that. And it's also important when you get in the door, you don't get right down to business the moment you get in the door,
That's right.
I trained a 6-step process with how do you run a service call? And it's everything from the prepare step to the greet step, to the explore, to the present, to the execute, to the wrap up. And then when you break it down into easy steps that are easy to digest and manage, it just creates an experience for the customer that they don't get anywhere else, And it just goes back to the fact that anybody can fix the water heater.
Yeah.
Not everyone's doing the 6-step process.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess I would even go, alongside of the process and say anybody can follow a process, but when you aren't just check, but you're being a human.
Yep. And you're
paying attention to the other human.
Yep. That's the thing. It's like, make the process fit your style. Like, don't run it like you're a robot, because it just doesn't work that way. Learn it and then make it fit your style. So when you get in the door, the first thing you got to do is make a personal connection with the customer. You got to lighten the mood up, because
Yeah.
when a customer has to call a plumber, or really any tradesman for that matter, they're usually in a bad mood, because now they've woken up and they're trying to get out the door, trying to get their kids ready. They got no hot water. Now they're running
Right.
late. Now they got to figure out who to call. And one of the exercises I would do with my guys is I would say, let's brainstorm all the feelings that a customer has when they wake up in the morning and they have no heat, they have no AC, no hot water, whatever the case may be. What are all the thoughts and fears that are in these customers' minds right now in this moment? you know? And the group would come up with a great list. I'd write it on the board. And then I would have them, okay, how do we solve these problems? How do we alleviate these concerns that the customer has?
Yeah.
And everything goes back to the process,
Yeah,
It's getting the reviews online, because when you have a great reputation online, it puts the customer at ease, because they have a feeling that you're going to take care of them, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah,
the review generating is a huge part of it, because it'll make you stand out. It'll make you
Yeah,
stand out from the competition.
exactly. I loved what you said though, that the review, yes, it gets you more business, but what it does is it puts the customer at ease. That's why someone from a consumer perspective is even looking at the reviews. They're looking for, can I depend? Are they going to show up? Are they going to rip me off? Like, all of those things are very uncertainty, fear-based thoughts. And having a ton of 5-star reviews, or a process that allows them to feel comfortable in, even just saying, like, I love the brainstorming idea on on that list, and being able to walk in, and as a trained technician, I've got this list of like, oh, I wonder what fear he's got. And when I walk in, I have this calm presence, and I recognize, oh, he's late, or he's got kid, or whatever the scenario is from the list. I say, hey, look, I completely understand. Don't worry, we're going to get you to work as soon as possible. Like, even just a sentence like that is like,
Yep.
thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. And that's part of the process too. Once you say, and the way you ask questions is very important. I used to train my guys to ask, what else can I do for you today? Versus saying, is there anything else I can do for you today? Because if you ask, is there anything else I can do for you today? Then the customer, it's almost like a reflex. They're going to say no. But when you ask it in a way like, hey, what else can I do? What else can I take care of for you today? In a sincere way, they'll actually stop and think and be like, you know what? This toilet's been running upstairs for the last 6 months, because that's what happens. Is like, customers learn to live with issues. Customers learn to live with issues in their home because A, they don't have time to figure out who to call. B, maybe they don't have the cash laying around. There's a whole multitude of reasons why customers live with things. I'm a plumber, and I live with plumbing issues in my own house. I mean, we all have them. We
Yeah.
all have them. But when your hot water heater goes out, well, you
Yeah.
can't live with that.
Yeah, you can't
So
operate.
so now we're in the house for the water heater not working. So you got to jar the customer's memory and have a conversation with them and get them loosened up and feel comfortable with you. So they'll kind of, talk about other things that might be bothering them.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. We could go probably a few hours on just this topic. Really, it's a human interaction, communication, personality, sales. Like, I mean, huge topic. I love it. I want to ask you though, the crux of the show is based on good and bad decisions. So I want to know, I mean, you built a company, a $4 million company over 4 years, and you sold it. What was a great decision that you made that helped you do that, that we can go implement in our businesses today?
A great decision. Well, my goal from day one was to sell it. So, most people, especially in my space, I'm not quite sure how it is in other types of businesses, but in my type of business, I would get letters constantly from people, private equity groups, whatever, hey, let's have a conversation, see if we're a good fit. We're looking to buy businesses like yours. I knew what my ultimate goal was to sell the business. And most people ball them things up and throw them in the trash. But what I did was I actually scheduled a meeting with every one of those guys, every single one of them, because it allowed me to A, learn,
Yep.
and B, build relationships.
Yeah.
So that when I worked with my broker to take my business to market, I actually was able to hand him a list of people who I'd been talking to for the past few years.
Yeah.
So that helped me, when it came down to sell the business. Another decision that I made to kind of get to that point was appearing larger than I was.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is, the guy riding around, in a pickup truck working out of his basement doesn't give a lot of confidence to a lot of customers.
That's right.
There's a customer out there for that guy. There's a customer for everyone.
Yep.
But if you're trying to scale a business and you're trying to grow a business, the number one thing you need to do is instill confidence in your potential clients who find you online.
Yes.
So, so number one, from day one, I was hammering reviews, getting those reviews built up, because what happened was, you know, my first year, I was able to rack up 100 5-star reviews. And the next guy in my town only had like 20. I mean, it was this huge margin that I was able to build on everyone.
Right.
Yet
Yeah.
I'm still working out in my basement. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? Like I hadn't even got my office yet. But what that did is that presented my company in a larger way than it actually truly was, you know? So it just goes back to giving the consumer confidence. They would see me with 100 reviews and everyone else with 10 or 15 or 20. Well, I was getting all the calls only a year in business. And frankly, it didn't even take that long. Within like a month or two, I already had more reviews than everyone else in the marketplace.
Right.
You know, and boom, I'm at the top of Google. I'm getting all the calls. It comes down to creating a scenario where the customer feels confident in calling you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. I think that there's a lot of intentionality. We talked about that at the very beginning. I used that word. And then you said you started with a plan. So that's what intentionality is. I think that those are great. The process of looking bigger than you are, I agree with 100%. It's all about perception is reality.
Yep.
It's not about necessarily faking it till you make it. It's not like being someone that you're not. Those were real reviews. You just were better at showing who you were. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And I was better at the process. I had a process that I ran every single call because, you know, every single customer will tell you they're going to give you a review because you have to ask. You have to ask, and you have to ask specifically for a 5-star Google review. If you do not ask for a specific 5-star Google review, they'll go leave you a 4-star on Yelp that doesn't mean anything, or they'll leave you a 5-star on Facebook that doesn't mean anything, or, you know, so you have to be specific and intentional in what you're asking for because Google owns our industry. It's an unfortunate thing, but Google owns our industry, you know?
Got to play by the rules.
Correct, man. So, you know, you got to ask for specifically 5-star Google review. And even though everyone will say they're going to give you one, still only about 3 out of 10 will actually do it. You know, so it's why it's important to run the process every single time.
Hey, Chaz, Wolfe here. As many of you know, I have been on an absolute mission to help entrepreneurs from all across the country in many different industries level up their game and grow their business and intentionally connect with other entrepreneurs. We do that obviously through the podcast, but we also have a peer-to-peer mastermind group specifically for 7 to 9-figure business owners. We are bringing some of the best and most successful entrepreneurs and minds together in a regular and a super intentional way to not only grow our network, but to be able to leverage. And at a certain point in business, success becomes about leverage, leveraging time, leveraging resources, leveraging key relationships. This is exactly what we're doing inside of the peer-to-peer mastermind group called Gathering the Kings, specifically for 7 to 9-figure business owners. So if that's you, if you're ready to level up your 7 to 9-figure business even to the next level and get around other big hitters just like you, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com, fill out a short application, and it'll come to an application call with me, and I want to chat with you to see if it might be a good fit. Talk soon. Yeah, so good, man. The consistency of, I mean, yes, you had to build the process. That's in order how you stay consistent. So you first have to have a process to follow, but then you just don't deviate. You just do it every time.
Every time.
No matter what.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
Let's flip the coin. What was a bad decision that kept you from maybe selling sooner, or maybe just something that just caused you a lot of trouble that we can stay away from?
Man, I don't know. There's a lot of small ones probably along the way.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, I probably should have sold in 21 when I first initially explored it, but we decided, my broker and I decided to wait and give it another year, allow some more growth in the business and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, looking back, I should have sold in 21 when I first initially explored it. But, you know, things always work out the way they're supposed to, you know? I mean, I tried starting a business back in like 2014 or something like that, and it just didn't work out. I didn't fully commit. It just wasn't the right time. It wasn't the right time for me, you know? That's why I didn't.
Interesting. Why do you think it wasn't the right time?
I didn't fully commit. I was in a very strange time in my life. I was like in the middle of a real bad divorce, and I'd lost everything, and I was living in my mom's basement, and it was just a horrible, horrible time in my life, man. And I was super, super broke, and I was just trying to just, you know, once I went through that divorce, man, it just supercharged me because I was like, I am not this person. I am not this broke person Like, this
Yeah.
is not me. This is not who I am. And I've just been on, a straight uphill trajectory ever since.
What? So, okay. I mean, there's there's a lot of weight there. Let's, if you don't mind me poking and prodding in there. Okay. So the divorce was the catalyst. Okay, fine. But who was the person that you said, I'm not that guy anymore? Like, what was he doing? Or what were the decisions that he was making that you were like, nope, I'm fed up. I'm done with that guy. I'm going this way now. What was that guy doing that we can stay
That
away from?
guy that guy was just broke. Yeah. I mean, I was still working hard and doing everything I could, but I was just kind of like treading water, man. I was just trying to get back to at least where I was prior to my divorce. Like,
Sure.
you know what I mean? So I just had to super focus and just work hard, man, and get my mind right.
Yeah.
I'm big on goals, and I'm big on visualizing all my goals. And I think it's super important to every day write your goals down. What do you want your life to look like? Visualize it, put some emotion behind it. And what do they call that? The law of attraction. I mean, it works. It works. It might not work on everything, but
Right.
it'll work on a lot of stuff. I mean, you can't sit here and write down that $1 million is going to drop in your lap tomorrow and it happened. I mean, it doesn't work like that. But if you live your life in a certain way, you're a good person and you have a good heart and you don't seek to harm people and that sort of thing, then the
Yeah.
universe will tend to pull in your favor.
Yeah. I like how you said that there's a reality to what we're pulling in, right? And yeah, okay, so maybe like a literal $1 million doesn't just show up on my doorstep tomorrow. But a relationship with someone that we start a business together that leads to $1 million can start tomorrow.
Yep.
And that's the seed of what you're, speaking or thinking or, bringing forth. And that's the gap, I think, where a lot of people they kind of miss it, where it's like they're wishing more so, where really they need to be like intently like speaking directly to their subconscious, going, no, this is how we operate. This is what we're expecting. And then it opens itself up to not just the $1 million falling in your lap for nothing, because that's absolutely the reverse of how success works. It's something for nothing doesn't actually work. The something for nothing is the reverse of the seed of an idea or the seed of a relationship, and then a business starts or something.
Yep.
But
Absolutely.
your mind's not looking for it if you're looking for the $1 million just to be handed to you.
Exactly. And I'm intentional in everything I do. There's a reason behind it. I'm super intentional with every action that I take, you know,
Yeah.
and another important thing is, you know, find people who are doing the things that you want to be doing in life, not the posers that are talking about it, but the ones that are actually doing it,
Yeah.
you know,
Big
like
difference.
don't take diet advice from a fat person, don't take financial advice from someone who's broke, you know, find the people who are actually doing the things that you want to be doing and align yourself with them. And
Yeah.
that's what I did. I took everything that I learned over the years in plumbing. And then in 2014, one of my moves to kind of get my life back on track was I got a job working for a company, just try to make more money, and it worked out. It was a great place for me to go in 2014. And it was refreshing because it was like the first actual like real business that I worked for in my whole entire
Yeah.
career. And I've been doing it for like 15 years at that point. And so I just paid attention, man. I just paid attention to the way it operated. I paid attention to the way the call center operated. I paid attention to the processes that not only was being trained for me, but that other people were following. And I got a really nice grasp of how a real plumbing business is supposed to operate. So once I started my business, I just emulated what I already knew worked. You
Yeah.
know, I emulated and I innovated. And that's the thing. It's like, they say, what do they say? Rob and duplicate, or what, however that,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, to a great extent, that's only about 80% of it, but you got to innovate. You got to innovate to stay ahead of the competition. Because if you're doing the same thing that everyone else is doing, someone
There's
else
no
is
difference.
innovating and someone else is innovating, you're not. You're going to get left behind. So you got to be ahead by taking what they're doing and innovating on that process or whatever it is and making it better.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also not being afraid to pivot when something's not working. I
That's
got into doing drain fields when I was in business, man.
okay.
And I invested all this money and all this equipment and all this other stuff, man, to do drain fields. We did like 2 or 3 drain fields, found out there's no money in that crap, and boom, we're done. We're not doing drain fields anymore, man. you know?
Yeah,
So
man. You're
great.
the principle that you're talking about is decisiveness. Whether you've made a good or a bad decision, you got to recognize and go, oh, okay. either press in harder or no, and being decisive one way or the other is extremely important. It's one of the principles of success for sure. Okay, so you change your mindset, you start thinking about how you can be intentional about your moves. You obviously start a business, you're successful through the process. You make mistakes, of course, but anything else that we can think of in this game of making good decisions? What about now? Something comes across your desk today. You don't even own the plumbing company anymore. How do you make decisions today?
Well, now my lifestyle comes first. My lifestyle, my time. I own my time now. I'm not beholden to anybody. I'm not beholden to public opinion like I was when I had the plumbing business, because the last thing you want is, just say something dumb on Facebook, and then people start blasting your company because you did something stupid. And now my call counts are down because people aren't calling. My employees aren't getting the calls they were getting. They're not being able to feed their families and making the money that they were,
Right.
because I did something dumb. So it's nice to have that weight lifted off my shoulders to where I'm 100% my own person now. I'm owned by nobody, you know? So when I make a decision, the first thing I'm looking at is how much of my time is this going to take? Because my lifestyle comes first. I'm very, very active. I'm very busy. I'm busier now than I was when I had the business, which is the craziest thing about it. You know, It's
You just get to
crazy.
do all the cool things that you were wanting to do then, but you
I
couldn't,
I know, seriously. So, and that's just kind of, so yeah, it's just how much time is this taking, and what are the actual priorities here?
Yeah, I love that. I want to ask you some other questions here, some different line of questions. I'm gonna reverse my order here though. So the kind of stemming from what we were just talking about, this doing the things that you kind of want to do and a little bit of lifestyle. You mentioned the word balance before. I'm picking up that you're a pretty obsessed individual. I think most successful people are. So my phrase that I've used and I've begun to use more and more is, instead of work life balance, work life obsession, and being obsessed with the things that I love as much as the business that I love. Right. That's what made me successful in business, was my obsession, my attention to, like, just let's just freaking go. Right. But what if I did that to my wife? Like, press that same obsession into my marriage? What if I did that to my kids and my family? What if I did that to the hobbies that you're doing now that you couldn't do then? Like, how does that play into what you just said, as far as, like, I look at my lifestyle now, or looking back when you had the business, what were you doing, or what would you wish that you had done to be able to do both, be obsessed about both, rather than, all in on the business and not on those other things that you weren't doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the business just required a lot of time, to stay on top of all the metrics that a business owner needs to stay on top of. But from day one, like I said, the goal was to build something that I could sell quickly. So
Sure.
a couple of things have to happen for that. You got to have profit. You got to have a certain size revenue, but also it's got to run itself, because whoever is buying your business doesn't want to come in and run it. They want to purchase an asset
Yeah.
that is
Machine.
they pretty much a machine that just runs and operates. So from day one, I was offloading every responsibility that someone else could do. I would have them do it, to where it got to the point where I was basically just managing the profitability of the company, which is what the owner's true responsibility really is at the end of the
That's
day.
right. That's
That's,
right.
I mean, you can hire a CFO and that sort of thing as you get big enough, but at the end of the day, the ownership is responsible for the profitability of the company when it comes down to it, you know? So that's ultimately where I really ended up there towards like the last year or maybe 2 years. That's pretty much what I was doing day in and day out. But you're right when it comes to work life obsession. I like that phrase because it's absolutely true. I'm obsessed. I was obsessed about my business. I'm obsessed about my life now. I'm obsessed about my wife, my children, the time we spend together. And that's really what it is. And, like you said, successful people are usually obsessed about things. And I absolutely am, dude. Like everything, hobbies, I go all in, dude. Like if I get a new hobby, like I'm all in, dude. Like,
I need
100%,
one of everything. Okay.
but that's absolutely true, man.
That's fun.
So I'm always doing what I love in a sense,
Yeah. Yeah.
pretty cool.
Exactly. I think that what you just said there is super powerful. So I don't want to skip over it too fast. When you are doing the things that you're obsessed with, including the business, it's never really work. And so we get to love what we do all day long, whether I'm on a podcast with Russell, or whether I'm in a strategic roundtable with my mastermind members, or whether I'm preparing for Mother's Day with my retail franchises, or whether I'm dealing with a situation where we're trying to buy properties in South Florida, like, or I get to be with my kids this afternoon, or like you name it. I get to love what I'm doing because I'm obsessed with it.
Hmm. And you get to do it. You don't have to do it. You get to do it. And
Yeah,
that's
that's
the
right.
beautiful part. It's a privilege.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Okay. You mentioned KPIs and you said that the one thing that the owner should be, kind of tracking is profitability. If that was the only thing that you could pick, would that still be your one answer? Or would there be something different that a business owner should be paying attention to if they can only pick one thing?
That's it, man. Because everything stems from that. If you're making money, you can pretty much fix anything if you're making money.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you'll
I
have
think
enough
that'll solve a lot
time.
of problems.
I mean, it might take you 10 years, but if you're making money, you got a long time to fix these problems.
That's right.
You
That's
know?
right. That's right. I think that, problems come when you can't solve more problems or bigger problems, like other problems stem. I mean, when you can't solve the problems, and a lot of times you can't solve the problems because there's no resource, time or money. But a lot of times, money can just solve that problem. That's for sure.
Yep, money can fix a lot of problems.
It sure can. What book or maybe a business resource would you recommend for our listeners?
I like Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. That's a cool book.
Yeah,
That's a really cool
yeah,
book.
it is. What do you like most about it? What's your takeaway?
I like I like the historical perspective that
Sure.
so he'll give you a law, but then he'll give you a historical sort of like story that goes along with the law, which I think was really cool.
Yeah, I listened to the audio of that one, and it's been a couple of years, but I actually felt like I was listening to kind of like an old historian type guy. Just the way that it's written. Obviously, it was written 100 years ago or whatever it is. So,
Mhm.
just the type of language that's written in is pretty cool.
Yep. And Dale Carnegie's got some good books. I've read a lot of sales books and things like that,
Yeah,
so, and it's just really important to learn how to use the English language to, to influence someone to do something in a sense.
yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? To move someone's decision from A to B or whatever the case may be, the way you use words and language, is very, very powerful. Especially when had the business and I was at work in the field as a plumber and things like that, I use all the time. And it's like,
yeah,
let's go ahead and dot, dot, dot.
yeah,
You can say, let's go ahead and anything after that. And that person's going to be doing it with you. It doesn't
yeah,
matter what it is, let's go ahead and look at your water here. Let's go ahead and go find your main valve. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and do that. If you say, let's go ahead and we're doing it. You know what I mean? So the way you say things and the way you communicate is very, very important.
yeah. I love it. I don't think I've ever used this word so much in one podcast, but it's intentionality, right?
Absolutely.
Um,
Every
a- a-
word, every word I speak is intentional.
Yeah, it matters, especially when you have a desired outcome, right? Like it's not manipulation in the sales process when you're trying to serve the other person, but you can still have an idea of what it is that they need in order for you to serve them. But a lot of times, especially homeowners, they get in their own way. And so like you said, influencing them to make a decision isn't manipulation. It's just helping them get over themselves to get what they say that they need, or whether maybe they don't know that they need it, but they do need it because that's the problem. That's why I'm here. I'm the expert. I know that this is what you need.
Exactly. Yep.
Love it.
Absolutely.
Okay. What do you think about intentionally networking or masterminding with other entrepreneurs?
I think it's really important, because like we talked about earlier, you can create a relationship that can turn into a business opportunity or anything
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah. That's right.
So yeah, it's hugely important.
Yeah. Yeah. You never know. Okay. I got one last question here for you. And this might come across a little interesting because, we're both young guys, but if you had the opportunity to whisper in the younger Russell's ear, what would you say?
Let's see. The younger, I would probably say when let me think for a second. How old was I? I think I was 20, maybe 21 years old. I would say, don't marry that woman.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it. But,
Okay.
we touched on kind of my background a little bit earlier. And, I dropped out of high school at 15 years old. I was a troubled kid. I was in trouble constantly, getting suspended from school. I failed everything. I was just ready to go live my life, man. I was ready. I just wished my parents would let me quit school so I can go off and start my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I finally got in so much freaking trouble that I was rebelling hard. It's like, I'm going to do whatever the heck I'm going to do. And there's nothing you can do about it. And that's when they finally let me quit school. I got my GED at 15. And then as soon as I turned 16, a couple months after that, I started working full time at 16 years old, man, commuting into Northern Virginia. I was doing landscaping, like 60 hours a week, 6 days a week. And, and then started plumbing at 17 years old. So, you know, I've been around, man. I've done a lot in my life and I've had a lot of ups and downs, man. But the one thing that I've always been is positive, and I've always been optimistic, and I've had a good head on my shoulders, you know?
It's good. I love how you said that even through the, like, troublesome times that you were still optimistic, and you would even go as far as to say you had a good head on your shoulders. A lot of times that pent up energy or that frustration, or even sometimes in our own children, right? It's that it's autonomy. They just desire autonomy to do their own thing. And obviously you were being kind of held down through the school system, and obviously you were just a kid, so there's parental guidance there, and just things that all of us entrepreneurs, we can relate to that. We can, at some point we said, enough, get off of me.
Hmm. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So I think it's huge, but at the same time too, it's not like, let me rebel in all the wrong areas of life just for the sake of it. It's no, let me I need to be the captain of my ship.
Yeah.
Like,
I needed freedom. I needed
yeah, like,
freedom,
just give me some wiggle room, man.
Yeah. And it's crazy because my daughter's 15 now. And it's like, man, just
Oh,
think, man, she's 15 years old, same age I was when I quit
dude.
high school and started freaking landscaping full time, working a shovel all day long,
Does
pumping
that
big
does that
heavy.
blow your mind?
It does, man. It's crazy. It's so crazy. It's because she's
Um,
just a kid. She's 15 years old. She's a kid.
I
It's
know. I
crazy.
know. I lied. I got one more question for you. I kind of weaved in my family question a little bit earlier out of order sometimes, but I I got one more thing, because you got a little older kids than I do. Maybe some of the listeners might be curious as well, especially with you transitioning out of the business and starting something new. What what do you, or what are you trying to do as a dad, as a business owner? Because it can be for a mom perspective, if they're listening. Are you instilling in your children at 15? Like, having that kind of reminded me there of, like, wow, she's where you were when kind of like your journey began. What have you been doing, or what are you doing now to, like, give her the things that she needs in order to have autonomy and to be able to go do her own thing, or maybe even own a business or be successful, like, fill in the blank?
Yeah, so I just tell my kids all the time, man, the world doesn't give a crap about you. You could be laying broke in a ditch and no one's gonna freaking care about you. You need to worry about yourself. You need to be able to support yourself, and you need to take care of yourself because no one's gonna do it for you. And that's the reality of it. You have
Yeah.
to take care of yourself. Nobody's gonna take care of no one's gonna take care of you. And I just told them this past week, and I said, because some recent report came out about how, like, I don't know, it was like 40% of millennials, their parents are paying their rent or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
And
Insane.
and being in plumbing for so many years, I would see it all the time. I'd see these 30-year-old kids living in their parents' basements, playing video games all day long. Meanwhile, they got $300,000 education, you know?
Crazy.
So, I told my kids over the week, I said, look, I'm not taking care of loser adult children. So you guys need to be in a position where you're going to be able to take care of yourself, because I'm not doing it, you know? And like I told my daughter, it's like, the fastest way into poverty is to have a baby, you know, as a teenager, or really even in your early 20s, in a sense, because you have to get to a point where you have an established career before you take off for 2 months. And now you got childcare and everything else that's going to cost a fortune. You can't be 17 years old and having a baby. That's the fastest way into poverty. And I'm not taking care of no babies. I've been down that road. I'm done taking care of babies, you know? And
I get to be grandpa now, not caretaker of babies.
yeah, so I just lay out scenarios. I lay out scenarios like, this is what happens if you have a baby before you're ready.
Yeah.
If you're a teenager and you have a baby, the dad, he can go off and live his life. He can move to another state. He can do, but it's always the mother that's stuck with the child, and the dad is out, doing whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't he can go off and do whatever he wants, and it's always the mother that's stuck with the child.
Yeah.
So, I'm real with them, man. I tell them about life, and I'm real with them. I don't sugarcoat things, and I make sure they know that they got to work, and I'm going to buy them a piece of crap car for their first car, because if they want something nice, they're going to pay for it themselves, and I told them I'm not paying for college. I'm not paying all that freaking money for college. You know, f- so many customers I worked for over the years, man, they're in their 60s or 70s. And, cause I'm a relationship guy. I'm talking to my customers and everything. And they're telling me the only reason they're still working is because they got kids in college. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
you're 70 years old. When are you gonna live your life? Like, I'm not doing it, dude. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not, if you want to go to college bad enough, you can figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not footing the bill for it.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's funny. I remember a conversation I had with my estate planner several years ago when my kids, I didn't even have two of the four. Maybe we had two at that time. And he's like, okay, well, so there's a lot of money here. What do you want to have done? I assume college. I'm quiet. He looks up. He's like, you're paying for their college, right? I'm like, no, sir. We can go on to the next one. And he looks over at my wife, like, is he serious? And she goes, he's the one. Like, no, you better follow instructions on this one because I ain't budging, bro. And it doesn't mean that college is bad. My wife has a college education. She's a dental hygienist by trade. Thank goodness for those people. But it is not the only path, let alone it's not the path to success, let alone the only. So
Exactly.
all that to say, Russell, you have just been incredible. How can the listener, number one, how can they connect with you if they just want to reach out? But number two, if they're interested in some sort of a coaching program with you, how can they find you? Where can they go?
Yeah, Facebook, they can find me on Facebook, and I've got on I've got just a post on my pinned at the top of my feed that talks about the coaching. And there's a little link on the left-hand side to book a 15-minute consultation with me. So it's super easy.
Cool, man. Sounds good. Yeah, we'll put all that in the show notes as well, and so they can easily find you. But dude, you're moving fast. You're in a whole nother chapter. I'm excited to know you and to see where even our relationship goes because, like you said, you just never know. But it's been an absolute pleasure getting to be able to showcase your story here and all your success. So we wish you nothing but blessings on your family and your new endeavors, all the things you have your hands to. Thanks for being here, brother.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing literally over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings literally exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.